My name is John Ottman. I'm Executive Chairman of Solix Technologies, and I'd like to talk to you today about data-driven banking. For those of you that may not know us, Solix Technologies was founded in 2002. We're headquartered in Santa Clara, California, have about 200 employees or so, and our mission statement as a company is to organize the world's enterprise information. So within the enterprise, we're about enterprise data management. We have well over 1,000 customers, and our sales and service partners are pretty much all around here in the show and the exhibit floor. And our big data partners in particular, the ones we run on Cloudera, we run on Hortonworks, we run on MapR, Oracle, Amazon, and raw Apache in terms of our partnerships. Just one other point about Solix, we are recognized by Gartner as the leader in structured data archiving, and as you're going to see hopefully at the end of this presentation why that's extremely important. But this was a big accreditation for Solix. So, when we're talking about data-driven banking, or if we're talking about data-driven enterprise in general, or really for any industry, probably the biggest issue that everybody's facing today is the data growth crisis. You can't hardly pick up a IT publication today and not read about the fantastic growth of structured data, unstructured data, semi-structured data, and it poses incredible challenges to IT in terms of the performance of the production applications that are doing OLTP processing, in terms of managing risk and compliance, and also driving costs crazy. People say storage is cheap, but storage really is not cheap when you're talking about petabytes and petabytes and petabytes growing at a very, very rapid rate. And in addition to the data growth crisis, particularly in the banking arena, compliance has become a major, major challenge for everybody. And what we see in banking in particular is a very rapid rise in regulatory fees, actually rising at a much faster clip than revenues and profits at banks. And the expanded scope of compliance, new compliance guidelines coming out on a regular basis, Bank Secrecy Act, Anti-Money Laundering Act, in addition to many of the older ones like SOX and whatnot that we've all been dealing with for a long time. The compliance is a major, major issue, and we've got to be able to integrate compliance into overall compliance frameworks that an entire organization might be using, and we have to transform compliance from just an advisory function into an active participation and an active risk management system. So compliance becomes a critical component to a data-driven banking strategy. So if you think about data-driven banking and really what is it all about, if you think about a large banking institution, what it's typically characterized is by large silos of application-specific information, be it payment systems, within retail banking or commercial banking or investment management. There's large databases, and many of them transaction processing databases, and the difficulty in establishing a data-driven banking application is to be able to get at this data so that it can drive the new data-driven applications that are really, really important to the business. Mobile payments, next-generation personal financial systems, peer-to-peer environments, fintech, blockchain applications. All of these new applications are what we think of when we talk about data-driven banking. So the enabler of data-driven banking is to be able to capture the transactional data in these silos and be able to provide them and feed them to these downstream, often NoSQL applications or advanced analytics applications. It's very similar to what ERP was many, many years ago by consolidating accounts receivable, accounts payable, and to be able to have an active general ledger. Now if you look at data-driven banking, you see these same silos of information, and they've got to be consolidated into a common repository. So when you think about consolidating these silos into a common repository, the first thing that comes to mind is like, well, it's not all structured data anymore. I mean, it used to be very, very much a structured data thing, but now we're talking about semi-structured data, we're talking about images, we're talking about video, we're talking about email, we're talking about file servers, critical data of information that is across the enterprise. And what Solix has done is we've positioned a construct that we call the enterprise, that we call the enterprise business record. Within an all structured data world, you think of a complete business object. So what's my customer? Who is a customer? And a complete business object would include all of the attributes of that customer. Within an enterprise business record structure, we expand the complete business object to include unstructured and semi-structured components of data to build a richer data object, and also to be able to take structured data and denormalize it into a flattened file so it can be text searched. And for many, many years, the holy grail of relational database has been, to be able to get at the information, particularly in the sense of text searching. And it's always been a challenge. But today, it's actually possible through enterprise business records to text search structured data. So it all comes together in what we call a common data platform approach. We call it CDP. And think of CDP very similar to, you used to think of ERP. ERP would take your accounts receivable, your accounts payable, merge them together in a concurrent process, and you'd have an active general ledger. Now we're talking about taking these silos of very different information all across the enterprise, not just ERP, but many, many other application areas as well, and being able to ingest them in a way that is not just a copy, but is also a move. Now, a move is very different and distinct from a copy in that a move is actually involving a purge of source data and then a validation that that purge was done correctly. Why is this important? Because huge cost is removed when you're able to, this is what we're talking about, archiving, when you're able to archive a production system. So a move is an awesome ingestion strategy in addition to a copy. Now this common data platform is really all about establishing an enterprise archive or an enterprise data lake and using copy or move techniques to get the data in. Now once the data is in, another critical component is to be able to manage it for compliance. And so we have a governance workbench that goes after the compliance issues. And then an analyst workbench is the discovery environment. And then there's an API that we've made available so that not just the Solix analyst workbench is able to discover data in this common data platform, but it's also an API that's available for all of our third-party partners. So we'll take a closer look at the Solix Object Workbench. What you want to be able to do is move, copy, and transform, all three. And the move I mentioned is critical, but also the transform can be critical as well, depending on what type of data formats that you're looking to establish. Is it HDFS? Is it S3? Is it Glacier? Where do you best want to have this data? Is it going to be flattened into an enterprise business record and denormalized so it's accessible for text search? These are critical components, and what we're building with our customers and with our partners are specific connectors in the banking arena for custom apps that you may have running, but also core banking systems such as Oracle or SAP or Hogan, and banking CRM systems such as Siebel, banking ERP systems, or loan systems, loan origination systems. So what we're doing, whether it's mainframe-based or if it's other structured database-based, or even unstructured databases, we're building specific connectors to each one of these databases so that the ingestion strategy, think of it as archiving as a service, can be done as easily as possible. The Solix Common Data Platform also has a data governance workbench, and this is about understanding the complete life cycle of your data, from when data is created to when it's finally deleted. The first thing we have to do is discover data. Do you know what data you have that's sensitive? Do you know what data in a certain format? So by able to go in and scan this data, we can discover and then classify data. And once we can classify the data, we can establish policies for managing that data throughout its life cycle, meaning how long do you want it to be available to who? How long should it be running on one platform versus moved off to another platform? So being able to set policies and have a policy-driven data governance platform is critical. It also is where you're going to manage your security, whether the Solix Common Data Platform is encrypted end-to-end with HTTPS support end-to-end as well as encryption at rest. Access control policies also implemented on a privileged basis. And then we need to know what's the retention policy for this data. How long do we want to own this data? And once we're finished owning it, when should it be deleted? And can we confirm that it was deleted? And what if there's a legal hold on certain data? Or what if, for instance, in certain cases, we absolutely want to be forgotten. We have to delete data. So all of these capabilities are built into the Solix Data Governance Workbench. In terms of discovering data, which is really the application area that is the most meaningful, this is the advanced analytics side or the downstream NoSQL side. What we're doing now is, remember, we're taking all of this data, we're bringing it together in one common repository and enabling what we call schema-on-demand capability, schema-on-read capability, where downstream NoSQL applications can go find the data as is and read it into their application and apply schema as necessary as part of that application. These are the next generation payment, the next generation fintech, the next generation mobile apps that the banking industry is building. And to be able to get access to all of this data and find it all in one place, maintain governance and control over it, is a critical capability. And frankly, in order to enable a data-driven bank, if you are not able to establish a common data platform approach for the data in the bank, it's going to be almost impossible to get to these next generation applications. In terms of use cases, we have one very, very large bank that's here in the audience today that is using it for many of these same reasons. They're starting with archive on demand. The archive as a service is what they call it internally as their ingestion strategy. This is how you get all the diverse data into this common repository. And they're using it for things like application retirement, to retire old legacy systems, and also to establish data lakes to enable these next generation data-driven applications. Another bank over in Europe is doing something very similar. They were originally just a customer of our prior generation archiving solution, and today they're doing application retirement on an enterprise-wide basis. So that's the presentation for today. Thank you very much. Please visit us at solix.com.